Hi everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. I'm Ama Mama. I am rocking my Christmas pajamas. I had to show the hood for a second, but it makes it hard to hear, so I'm gonna take that down. First, a quick update and a thank you to everyone for the well wishes as I have been recovering. Man, it has been a couple of weeks. It started out with that I got a cold and then that turned into bronchitis and I ended up getting an ear infection on top of that. And so it has been a rough couple of weeks. I still have a bit of a cough and everything, but I'm definitely feeling a lot better than I had been. So again, thank you to everyone for the well wishes and everything as I've been recovering. I wanted to go ahead and post this video. This is going to kind of double as what I've read and pretty much a December wrap up because I finished everything that was on my December TBR, and so I'm going to kind of just go through those books, what I read, what I rated them, all that good stuff. And then I'm going to call that it for December. I did start another book that I may finish before the end of the month, depending on how fast I read it. But it's the last book of the Stephen King series of The Dark Tower. So book 7. So it's a very long book. It's really fat. So I may finish it, I may not, but I'm not worried about that in the December video. So I figured I'll post this one, and then my next video will probably be a January TBR. So I'm gonna go over, like I said, what I read. This isn't the order necessarily that I read everything in, just what I read. I read a December to Remember by Jenny Bayliss. I've never read anything by this author, so I don't know, if this is indicative of her normal writing style, but I really liked this book a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. There are 3 sisters whose father has passed away, and he was a very eccentric man, owned a shop where he collected things from all over, but the shop hadn't been open in like 5 years, and so his daughters were all kind of estranged from each other, and he set in motion things to help get his girls back together. And so there are 3 different like romance components to this, but in addition to that, it tells the story of the sisters and how it tells the story of the sisters and how they work through the things that their father wants them to do, and how they find each other, how they find community in the town that they had ties to as children. And it was just really fun. I really enjoyed this story. I don't want to say a whole lot because I would definitely recommend reading this. I'm bordering on a 5-star, but I'm thinking like a 4.5 stars for this particular book. But it's close, maybe a 4.75. I mean, it was really close to a 5-star read for me, considering the fact that it's not that long of a book. I thought the author did a really good job of building the scenario, building the background. It was kind of whimsical and had like some elements that kind of felt magical to them without specifically being magical. So I really enjoyed this. So I would recommend this one. I also forgot, if I sound a little weird, the other thing too that happened is that I had a crown and my crown broke. And so I had to go see the emergency dentist, and so now I am waiting for, they had to remove where the crown was. So I have to wait for that to heal so that I can get this fixed. And so it's making me have a nice lisp. And so I'm telling you that it has been a rough couple of weeks. And so I'm glad that hopefully I'm on the other side of all of this. So, so if I sound a little weird, that's why. I'm trying not to, but that's what I'm thinking. All right, the next book that I read was The Christmas Orphans Club, and this book is basically about found family and relationships and things like that. And so Hannah and Finn are really good friends. They met in college. She's an orphan. He had been basically disowned by his parents when he came out. And so the story goes into their relationship and their friend group, which they end up basically a group of 4 who spend every Christmas together. And things are changing because Finn has got a job in a new city, so he's going to be moving across country. Hannah has a boyfriend who wants more of a commitment to her, but there's some fear there. And so it kind of talks about their relationship with other people, and there's some romance that happens in here. I gave this a 4-star as well. There was some stuff in it that, yes, some of it is kind of predictable. And this is by Becca Freeman, and I don't think I've read anything by her before. Maybe I recognize the name. And so I don't know if it's just that I've heard other booktubers talk about her before, but I did recognize her name, but I'm not sure if I've read anything by her before. But I did really enjoy this book. I gave this a 4-star as well because, again, it was just kind of a easy holiday read. And given the fact that, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books that total, and I wasn't sure if I was going to finish all of them. Most of these were just very light, very easy, just kind of fun, Christmassy vibes, family, heartwarming, all of that. So I really enjoyed this one as well. Like I said, it does have some things that, yes, is it kind of predictable in places? It is, but it didn't ruin anything for me. And I liked the characters. I liked the relationships between everyone. I mean, there were definitely some parts where you kind of wanted to smack Hannah upside the head at times because of, how she was acting. But other than that, I did enjoy this. Then I read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Not too much to say on this, it's a classic, but I had never actually read the book before. I had started reading about it, but I ended up listening to the audiobook, and the version that I had was narrated by Hugh Grant. And so it was really fun to hear him read this story. So I enjoyed the book. I've seen so many different versions, in the movie. I've seen live theater of this. And so it was nice to actually read the story myself. So five stars. I love A Christmas Carol. Then I read Mr. Miracle by Debbie Macomber. And this is one of the ones that had belonged to my mom. My mom really liked Debbie Macomber. And so since my mom had passed away earlier this year, I had some of her books that I wanted to read. And it was cute. The thing that I've got another one by Debbie Macomber that I read. And the critique that I have for this one is kind of the same as it is for everything that I've read by her so far. She's very short on the character building, I would say. It's not very in depth, and so it makes they're quick reads, but it just lacks that depth. And so things happen so fast that it makes them not make sense. Like you feel like you went from A to Z and they're like you're missing details. And so this particular book, An Angel is sent to Earth to help a girl, but then he's actually there to kind of be involved in the lives of several people. And so he is put in place as a professor at a college, and he has to help her. I guess he's supposed to be helping her kind of get over some of her attitude things that she has going on involving a person that a gentleman who she had grown up with, and they had some animosity there and everything. And so it went from them not liking each other to like romance in such record time. Like, you didn't feel or see any of the chemistry really between them. And so the premise of the story was good, but it was so light on the character building and everything else that it just lost a lot. I don't know, it just lost a lot for me because of that. So I'd give this 3 stars. I mean, it wasn't bad. And it says that this one was made into a holiday movie for Hallmark. I don't know if it was or not. I haven't checked. So maybe the movie would be better. Like, it reads like it would be a good movie. The way, you know, the Hallmark movies, everything always happens so quickly that you're like, well, that was fast. Like, they met, you know, 3 days ago and now they're in love, sort of thing. And so, so again, it was fine, but I don't know. She's not my favorite. For my mom, I can see why my mom probably enjoyed her writing, but I've read a few of her books now, and she's not my favorite, but it's not bad. I mean, it was a quick read, and like I said, the premise of the story was good, but I feel like the execution, I don't know, it wasn't deep enough for me. I needed more character building and to see the chemistry. And so then the next book was volume 1 of Midnight Suns. This is also Debbie Macomber. So there's actually 2 books in there. And so you can see, like, this is very short. This had Brides for Brothers and The Marriage Risk. And kind of the same critique. The relationships that happened in this book happened so quickly that it made 0 sense. And so basically, there are these brothers who live in Alaska. They own a bush plane charter service called Midnight Suns, and they decide that they need women in this town in Alaska that they're in, because they're so far out of like the area of everything that there's hardly any women. And there are people in the town, but there's either like married people, or there's like somehow there's like 25 kids that go to a school there, but like there's no single women for the most part. So they go on this campaign, and they start trying to hire women for different things. So they look for a librarian and a secretary and a school teacher, and the doctor that they have there wants to retire, so they're looking for a new doctor. But they don't advertise it as they're looking for women, but like that's kind of who they're targeting. And so it's this really weird thing where like they're almost looking for mail order bride kind of things. And so in the first book, one of the girls who comes from the ad, she flies out, and she's got 2 kids, and the two older brothers who own this charter service, they're not really on board for the whole plan, but they know if they don't get some women to their town that they're going to start losing their pilots, because the men are kind of to the point where they're like, there's no one here for us to date. We have no girls to talk to. Like, we're going to leave. And so, so even though they're not super on board with it, they go along with it. And both of them, for family reasons, are very against marriage and all this stuff. So the girl who comes out to be the librarian, she's got 2 young children and has like uprooted her life. And the middle brother, Sawyer, finds himself like instantly drawn to her. And so they have this like strange connection. And so again, it's one of those things where like, I feel like you can't really give anything away because it's so predictable, but like they go from he never wants to get married to suddenly they're madly in love and they're getting married and like they've only known each other like 2 months. And so you're like, okay. Well, then the second book starts and it's basically the exact same book, but with the older brother and not somebody who has come to the town to work, but the granddaughter of the person that has been like their family's rival forever. And so, but it's the same situation again where the oldest brother is like sworn off of marriage and women and that whole thing. And then he sees this girl and suddenly they're like kissing and in love. Like, so again, it made it so hard to believe anything that was happening that it read like you were trying to watch like a very short movie about these romances. And so the second book was basically the same as the first. And so I only gave this maybe a 2.5, 3 stars. I mean, for what it was, it wasn't bad, I guess, but they weren't my favorite. I almost didn't read the second book because by the time I picked it up, I was like, well, it's the same, it's the same thing happening that happened in the first one. But I read it. There were a couple things that were a little bit different, and there were a couple parts that was interesting to find out like what the family rivalry had been and everything. But overall, it wasn't my favorite. But again, for my mom, I can see why my mom enjoyed it, but not really my cup of tea. Then I read You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince. And if you have seen Schitt's Creek at all, this reminded me of like Schitt's Creek vibes, but in a book and a Christmas kind of format. So Matthew Prince is like this spoiled, rich young man, and he gets cut off by his parents after he I don't think this is a spoiler really, but like he buys an island out of spite or upset, and you find out later on why he did it. But so his parents cut him off and they send him to stay with his grandparents because they don't want the media to pick up on the story of him buying the island. They're trying to kind of hide it quietly. And you find out later why they're doing this and everything. But his parents have a university student staying with them. And so they have to share a room together, and like they're in bunk beds and everything. And so him and the guy who is staying with his grandparents, they're like total opposites, and they don't really get along too well. But they have to kind of come together and work together to do some things to save Matthew Prince's grandmother's business. And the event that they're working on, like it's for the whole town and it's to raise money for the small businesses of the town, but really he's trying to help his grandparents. But the kid, Matthew Prince, he originally is just really trying to get back in his parents' good graces so that they like give him back access to his funds and all of these things, because all he wants to do is get back to his old life and the party scene and all of that. But he starts having feelings for the guy who is staying with his parents, Hector, and some stuff happens. And so it was just fun. It just, like I said, if you've seen Schitt's Creek at all, it made me think of that TV show. It kind of had those vibes. So it was a fun read. I did enjoy this. I gave this 4 stars. Again, not a super heavy read, but it was at least, believable. The character building was done well. And this was Timothy Janofsky. Again, somebody I haven't read before, but I did enjoy this a lot. So I thought it was fun. And then the last book, which incidentally was the first book that I read, was The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. And in this particular book, there's twin sisters who they end up having to swap places due to an injury that one of the sisters gets. She's part of a cooking show, and the other sister is back in the town they grew up in, and she is taking care of the bakery that their family owns while her parents are out of town for the holidays, and so they swap places. And so again, like there's definitely, the romance components that happen with the sisters during the swap, but there's a lot of elements about the sisters and their relationship, and so it's a lot deeper than just being strictly romance. So, if you have been reading a lot of, romance kind of things over Christmas and and you're looking for something a little bit different, this definitely had enough elements to it that I don't feel like you would get burnt out again on the romance. Same thing with A December to Remember, the very first one I talked about. It was kind of the same thing. This one, it was whimsical. It had a lot of family stuff to it. And so even though there was some romance to it, most of these, none of them I felt like bogged down with just the romance, other than the Debbie Macomber books, which made 0 sense. So this book I also gave a 4 stars to. I have cousins who are twins, and I remember when they were in high school, because they went to 2 different high schools because they didn't want to be known as the twins at their schools. But there were times that they would go to each other, like they would swap and go to each other's schools just for a break. And I think once or twice they got caught, but for the most part, and it wasn't by the school, it was like by their mom sort of thing, by my aunt. But so, it was fun to read about these girls doing that as adults in their careers and trying to get away with it without people detecting that they weren't who they said they were. So again, I gave this 4 stars. So overall, it's been a good reading month. Everything I've read has been, just pretty light. I didn't want to read, like my horror stuff or anything super heavy for December, which I'm extra glad I did since I ended up being sick. I did listen to some of these partially on audiobook when my bronchitis was at its worst. And then I would go back and forth reading them, because I didn't realize that I had access to some of these on audiobook. And so I was able to go back and forth. And then, like I said, I picked up the book 7 of Stephen King, the Dark Tower series, and I just started that, and already that book is taking me for a ride, and I'm about 50 pages in, and I've had to put it down several times because it's been a little bit intense with some of the stuff that's happening, but I'm enjoying it. So I may finish it this month, I might not, but that is what I've read for December. So I'm just going to kind of call this my December wrap up. And then hopefully next week I will do a January TBR. I'll probably include the Stephen King book in that, because again, I haven't looked at the page count, but it's a fat book, and it's not like super large font. So it's probably 800 pages maybe. So it's going to take a little while to read, I'm sure. But I hope everyone has if you celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas with your family, that you have a great holiday either way. And I will see everyone again next week, and we'll be almost to a new year already. So have a good holiday if you celebrate, and Merry Christmas. Bye.